Good morning. Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, it don't rain in the Army, as we used to say. It rains on the Army. But last year we had the same situation with rain, but we got a nice shelter here, and we certainly appreciate everybody coming out. It's going to still be a wonderful day, and we do have a lot going on, and we do have picnic tables over here, and there's room to put folding chairs over here on this side, and you will not miss anything. So if you got folding chairs, kind of want to make your way around over here, you'll be just fine to do that. Get this Mr. Microphone ready here. I'm Phil Matthews, town councilman and retired Army and a Vietnam veteran, and it's good to be here. And as I said last year, I think there's another monsoon came in on us, but we are glad to have you here. We had a gentleman always comes out here, it's a good friend of mine, and he'll be turning 93 years old, and he's had some heavy-duty health issues and unable to be with us. And we have to tighten this thing up. There we go. But he's unable to be with us this year. He's had a lot of surgeries, but I want to recognize him, Mr. Seth Penny. You might know him from the Garner area, and such a fine gentleman. And he'll be turning 93 this year, but he was in Korea in the Navy. So, having said that, again, officially welcome everybody here on behalf of the town of Garner. It will be a great day. We do this every year, and we do have our memorial up here. It's going to be available for tours afterward if you want to go by and see those that's on the wall as well as those that are on the brick, and we're pleased to have that. And what we're looking to do later on is to build a path around the brick area. It's our plan, so nobody will be walking on the names anymore, and we'll block that off so there won't be dogs running through and bicycles, and out of respect and honor for the names that's up there. So we will be fixing that, so I'll share that with you. And having said that, I want to thank all of the folks out here this morning, bright and early, the ladies and gentlemen making all this thing happen. We had the big shelter up there, and we made a quick decision to move back down here where we had a little shelter over us, and so just in case the rain continued. But having said that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a man that probably you don't need introducing, but he's a good friend of mine, and he's our new mayor in Garner. And please make welcome our mayor, the Honorable Buddy Gutton.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Garner. Good morning. All right, is it a great day or what? It's a beautiful day because you're here. You're beautiful and you make the day shine. This is just great. Phil is too modest to give you much of his background. He talked a little bit about being in the Army, and of course he's on the town council. If we had a Secretary of Veterans Affairs for the town of Garner, it would be Phil. He's a champion of the veterans. He's a champion of patriotism. We're just proud to have him on the team here. Speaking of the team, I want to recognize our previous mayor and my mentor, Ken Marshman. Ken, if you'd just stand up and say hello to this guy, did the job, worked on the council for years and years. Pay away, thank you, sir. And he and his wife are dressed in exactly the right colors, red, white, and blue. I've just got to point out, they make me look bad every time. We also have our Mayor Pro Tem, Elmo Vance, in the back. Elmo, if you'd wave. I see Council Member Grace Singleton is here. Council Member Damian Dellinger is in the back over here. Let's see, and that's 4 out of 5. Kathy's at the beach. We also have our interim town manager, Miss Jody Miller. I think I saw Jody slipping in back here. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, yes. Oh, she's already standing up. Thank you. But her and her team are the ones that do all the work on this. They had the stage out here to set up, but at the first stroke of lightning, they took it all down and said, let's stand under the pavilion back here. Let's be safe. The number one question I get from people since I've got into this mayor job, I'm still on probation, by the way. I finish up my 6 months next week, and they might let me start coming into the office instead of working remotely. We'll see. But the question I get all the time is, in all this explosive growth in Garner, how will we ever be able to retain our identity? How will we keep who we are as Garner? And I say, I'm not sure how, but we must do it. We must maintain the village atmosphere. It's a place where we know our neighbors and help each other. And we have to figure out how to keep doing that no matter how much we grow. That's the thing that's unique about us. It's the thing that brings all of you out here today. You know your neighbors. you help each other. We're here for the betterment of everybody. And this is a special event. We have so many volunteers. I looked over here at Tim Stevens, for example, who lined up our keynote speaker, who will get a little better introduction later. But Tim said, oh, I'm just one of the unofficial helpers. But the unofficial helpers are the ones that sometimes contribute the most because they're doing it from the heart. We really appreciate all of you that are doing this. We got Boy Scouts, we got police and fire. We just got a great representation of what Garner really is. We're here to honor the people who, as they say, gave all, the ones who went to serve and didn't come back. And let's please observe just a moment of silence and think about what that means and who these people are. Thank you, and Secretary of Veteran Affairs, Matthews, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to acknowledge our VFW and American Legion representatives here today because we couldn't do this without them, and you'll see them up here at the memorial as well as out at the Veterans Memorial out at the park we'll call Montlone out there a little bit later on today. I think around 11 o'clock they're going to be out there. And, but again, it gives me great pleasure to introduce this team. They are at all of our special events. We're very proud of them because they're Garner policemen and Garner firemen. And that means a whole lot, and they're the best of the best. And please, we're going to bring them on for the presentation of colors. And if you're able to, if you can rise, we appreciate it. If not, remain seated. And now for the national anthem, please make welcome Miss Hannah Quilvillian.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Thank you again to our honor guard and Miss Hannah. We got to book her again for next year. She is awesome. Let's give her a big hand. I was proud of her. Even though I didn't mess up her last name, I'm going to call you Hannah anyway. All right. Well, you know, since Tim's out here, and I've had the pleasure of working with him for a long, long time. He's, in case you don't know, when we had the Vietnam Wall come to Garner here a while back, Tim was he made it happen. That's the best way I can put it. It was a pleasure to work with him, and a lot of us did that. And with our keynote speaker, Tim, would you do me the honor of coming up here and introducing our keynote speaker? Absolutely.
Sir, it is my great privilege to introduce you today to Ed Tatum. If you've ever been to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, you have probably marveled at the discipline and the way the guards performed their duties. One of my favorite clips to watch on television is in the middle of a snowstorm when the snow's about a foot deep and they're still walking, protecting the tomb symbolically and realistically. I've always wanted to talk to one of the men who guard the tomb, and there's so many things about it, and there's so much depth to what they do. I think you're going to enjoy a great deal hearing from Ed. He's a native of Elizabethtown and is a natural car salesman. Be careful or you will buy one before you leave today. Without more, Ed, take over.
Well, thank you, Tim, and the town of Garner for inviting me here today to speak. I was in the Army. I was drafted in 1971. They had a national draft lottery in 1971, and I won that lottery. First one ever won. But anyway, here to speak on Arlington Cemetery and the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. There's about 4 to 5 million people that visit Arlington Cemetery every year. And people visit Arlington for different reasons. Some visit there just to walk through the annals of history, because there is a lot of history there. And other ones visit to visit the graves of loved ones. And then others visit there just to find some solace in their hearts for those that have passed away. And Arlington consists today of 639 acres. And what a lot of people do not know is that Arlington is steeped in Civil War history. It is truly amazing. Arlington Estate was originally established by George Washington Parks Custis. And he was the great-grandson of George Washington and Martha Washington. In fact, he was a step-grandson of George Washington at that time. And when George Washington Parks Custard passed away, he left the estate to his daughter, who was named Mary Custard. And guess who Mary Custard married? Robert E. Lee. Married Robert E. Lee, and at that time he was an officer in the United States Army. And before he died, Parks Custis built a mansion in honor of George Washington, and it's called the Lee Custis Mansion. If y'all have been to Arlington Cemetery, it's a huge mansion, and it's got a lot of George Washington's replications in it and stuff, and also a lot of Robert E. Lee's heritage and stuff in there. And Robert E. Lee, he loved Arlington. He loved Arlington, and he loved the South. And he was like I say, a lieutenant in the U.S. Army. And when the war between the states, North and South, got started, he had opportunity to fight for the North, but he decided he loved his Arlington and South. So he went to be in charge of the South, and he left Arlington Cemetery. And when he left in 1861, and his wife Martha stayed on for a little while. Mary stayed on for a little while, but then when troops started moving into Arlington because its position to Washington, she left. She left Arlington, and at that time, the only person that could pay taxes in Virginia was the people that owned the property. Nobody else could go in and pay your taxes on it, you know. So the government ended up buying, or not buying, they ended up taking Arlington National Cemetery for $92.07. And like I say, because of its location in Arlington, it became a military base. In fact, it had 3 military forts there at one time. And as the war continued on there was numerous graves and stuff going on for the Union soldiers, and they were running out of room. So this particular General Meigs, Montgomery Meigs was his name, he was a person that was, he didn't like the South, of course, because he was with the North, and he especially didn't like Robert E. Lee, because he and Robert E. Lee went to the same college together. And Robert E. Lee graduated higher than he did from the college. But anyway, he decided, and through Congress also, to make Arlington a Union cemetery. And so it became a Union cemetery, and Private William Christensen was the first man that was buried in Arlington Cemetery, and he got buried behind the estate there, the Custis Lee Mansion, in a rose garden back there. And Montgomery Meigs, like I say, he hated the South. He really did. And so they started burying the Northern soldiers there in Arlington Cemetery. And so out of hate for the South and stuff, and Robert E. Lee, Arlington Cemetery was born. You know. And today there's over 400,000 graves in Arlington Cemetery of soldiers and their immediate family. And the people buried in Arlington are amazing, the people that are there. There's only 2 presidents that are buried in there. Howard Taft is buried there, and of course John F. Kennedy is buried there. And Joe Louis, who was the famous boxer, he held the title longer than any other boxer has held the title of champion. A lot of people don't know, but Lee Marvin is also buried in Arlington National Cemetery. And his grave is right up from the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And Glenn Miller of the Band of Renown is buried there. And Admiral Doubleday and Omar Bradley. Omar Bradley was the last 5-star general that there was in the Army there. And the Space Shuttle Challenger, those victims are there also. And of course, the grave, as I was saying a while ago, Aldy Murphy was buried there. And so to get on to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, on March the 4th, 1921, Congress approved burial of an unknown soldier in Arlington Cemetery, and they were following the Great Britain as far as honoring an unknown soldier at that time. And so on Memorial Day in 1921, 4 bodies were exhumed from unknown graves in France of our soldiers. And there was a Sergeant Edward Younger, who's a Medal of Honor winner. They had the 4 caskets there, and he walked up to the third one on the left and placed a white rose on that casket. And that's the one they put on the USS Caribbean and brought to the United States. And the other 3 were buried in the graveyard there in France. And on the interment date was on November the 11th, and President Warren Harding resided over the interment of that soldier. And one thing a lot of people do not know is that the unknown soldier from World War I, when they did the grave, they put 2 inches of French soil on the bottom of the, so that, because he came from France at that time. And like I said, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier was not guarded when this first soldier was put in there in 1921. It was not guarded. But people started having picnics up there and being disorderly around there. So they decided that they'd put some civilian guards there in 1925. And the civilian guards were put there, but that wasn't working out real good. So in 1937, they put military guards there, and those military guards had guarded the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier since then. 24 hours a day, it is guarded. And so for those 24 hours, it was not quite the ceremony duty that it is today, but going on for World War II. And the tomb, again, the tomb was not built like it was as you see it today at that time when the first World War I soldier was placed there. Well, it came to World War II, getting an unknown soldier for World War II, and the original interment date was supposed to be March the 30th, 1950. But at that time, there was trouble brewing in Korea. And so President Truman postponed that burial of the World War II soldier at that time. And like I say, that was in May 30th. Well, the Korean War started in June 1950. So, and it did not end until 1953. So President Eisenhower issued a bill to Congress that in 1956 for a dual interment of the World War II and the Korean War unknown soldier. And what they did, they went to, for the World War II, they went to the European and Pacific military graveyards and campaigns, and Navy First Sergeant Class Carteret chose that particular soldier that would be brought to the United States. And the other 3 were buried at sea. They were under a ceremony there. And the Korean War, the body was chosen from the National Cemetery of the Pacific. And Marine Sergeant Ned Lyle was the one that chose that particular soldier to be put beside his brothers of the World War I tomb in Arlington. Now, when it comes to the Vietnam War, when it ended, they chose to get a soldier from. And I was not there when the unknown soldier from Vietnam was put in. I was there in 1973, and on May the 28th, 1984, they chose a person to be put in the unknown soldier's grave. And they just chose one person. There was not a selection. But when they buried that particular person there, they really did not do enough of research as far as the unknown soldier. So this guy from North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, by the name of Ted Sampley, he was a POW MIA activist, and he had done some research on where they found the body from. It was in Antelope, Vietnam. It was a plane crash where they found his body. But anyway, again, they did not do enough research for this unknown soldier. And Ted Sampley got to investigate. And like I say, Ted was from Wilmington, North Carolina. And he narrowed it down to 2 soldiers. And the number 1 soldier he narrowed it down to was named Michael Blassie, who was a lieutenant in the Air Force at that time. That got killed in a plane crash. And he narrowed it down to that one person. And and then when he did, they one of the CBS stations picked that up and kind of advertised it a little bit. And he also notified the family, Michael Blassie's family, that may be him. He's in the Tomb of the Unknown for the Vietnam. And so when they did, the Secretary of Defense, William Colin, he was reluctant to disturb the grounds at Arlington Cemetery. But to live up to the commitment to find all the missing militaries, he decided to disinter, and they did a DNA on that. And when they did the DNA, they found out that it was Michael Blassie. And so the family chose not to leave his body there. They chose to have it moved back to the Jefferson Barracks Cemetery in St. Louis, Missouri. And so they had decided that there probably will never be another unknown soldier with the DNA that they have today. So at this time, there's the 3 soldiers there, and the Vietnam grave is empty, but there's the sarcophagus is still there that says in memory of all those that were lost in the Vietnam War. You know, at that time, it's still there. And another thing, when they were talking about the World War I, gentlemen, they following the lead of Great Britain, he received, all the Vietnam soldiers received wards, the Honor Guard wards and stuff. And so the World War I soldier, he received the Victoria Cross by King George out of Britain. He was there for the interment. And he received the Medal of Honor. And I'm glad the Boy Scouts are here today, because the World War I was presented the Silver Buffalo Award by the Boy Scouts of America. Thank y'all very much for that. And so, like I say, a lot of people ask me, how in the world did you get into the Honor Guard? And it is amazing. I'll tell y'all that now. It is truly amazing. As I was telling you a while ago, I got drafted in 1971, and my draft number was 18. And I'm from a small town in Elizabethtown, North Carolina. And in Elizabethtown, the population of Elizabethtown is 2,200. And what's more amazing about that, the 2 least awarded at that time, now there's one more award, when I was drafted, the 2 least awarded medal in the military is the astronaut badge, is the least awarded badge, and the second one is the Tomb Guard badge. And that Tomb Guard badge is on that frame over there, the original Tomb Guard badge. And in Elizabethtown, North Carolina, we have both of them. We have Curtis Brown, who is an astronaut, and of course I am the Tomb Guard from there. But anyway, to tell about how I got into it, as I told you a while ago, I won the lottery, and I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and I was in basic training at Fort Jackson, and I was about 3/4 the way through. And we fell out one morning, and Field First Sergeant was standing on the podium, and he says, and there was about 125, 130 of us out in the company at that time at Fort Jackson. And he said, and we were standing there at parade wrist, standing there like that, and they said, he said, is there any volunteers for the old guard? He said, you got to be between 6 foot and 6'4", and you can only have 1 traffic ticket. Is there any volunteers? Well, what's the saying in the Army when you're asked to volunteer for something? you don't volunteer. Because you never know exactly what you're getting into. So I wasn't going to volunteer. Now, it's funny, this is a sermon for a preacher here, if there's any preachers here. Again, they said never volunteer for anything in the Army, so I was not going to volunteer. I was standing there at parade dress, and what's amazing is there was one guy in dress right dress, it's tallest to the shortest, and there was one guy that was taller than me, and he'd had to go to sick bay that morning, and so that put me next to the drill sergeant. And the drill sergeant's name was Hogan. So I was standing there at parade dress. He looked at me and said, Tatum, raise your hand. He said, this is for duty in Washington, D.C. You won't have to go to Vietnam if they choose you. I raised my hand, fell out to the side. And when it got through the company, what was going on, 34 guys in that company volunteered to, and we had to go take tests and interviews and stuff like that. And out of the 34 guys that they chose, that volunteered, they chose me and another guy from South Carolina, John Kaler, and they chose the two of us, and we're the ones that went to Arlington, or went to Washington, D.C. at that time. And what's more amazing about that is that's the first time they'd ever had an AIT training for the old guard. They'd never had that before. So it was, so I went into the AIT training there. And after AIT, there was two forts for the old guard at that time. There was one at Fort Myers that was in Washington, D.C. That's Company A, and Fort McNair had C, B, D, and E. And so A Company was the only one in. So I went to A Company, and it was amazing the things that were going on in history at that time that I got to be a part of. It was truly amazing for be from a small town and get to do the things that I did. I was at General Haig's induction. I was at General Westmoreland's retirement. They had a birthday party for Omar Bradley, his 80th birthday party. And I went to that because I was on the drill team at that time. And Bob Hope was the guest speaker there for Omar Bradley. We did the halftime show for the Miami Dolphins and the Pittsburgh Steelers in Miami the year that Miami didn't lose a game, you know. I went to 3 of the inauguration balls for Richard Nixon, and I shook hands with Miss Nixon and her daughter Tricia. But one of the greatest honors I had, and I was speaking to one of the gentlemen a while ago, one of the greatest honors that I had while I was in the military was the funeral for the last man that was killed in Vietnam before the truce was signed. He was killed 6 hours before the truce was signed, and his name was Colonel William Nolde, and it was on national television at that time, and I got to be a part of that. And so, like I said, I was in the old guard. Now, the 2 million soldiers, the Sentinel, he is from the honor guard. And I had a friend named Ronnie Nairmore who was from Texas. And, you know, you never do anything by yourself a lot of times. You don't have enough confidence in yourself. Other people may have more than you do. And Ronnie Nairmore, like I say, he was a good friend of mine. You know, I was on the first casket team, and he was head of the first casket team. And he said, Ed, I want you to come, and I want to introduce you to the sergeant at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, because you can do that. I can't do it, but you can do it. And he went and introduced me. And you have to go through a series of, you have to volunteer for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. They don't choose. They don't pick you. I mean, you have to go and volunteer for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And it takes about a month of training. You have to learn a lot about Arlington Cemetery and about the particular march that they do and how to maintain a straight face, you know. And then after about a month, they vote, the other tomb guards vote on you. And they vote whether you're going to make it or whether you're going to be a tomb guard or not. And another thing people may not realize is that the tomb guard, they have what they call 3 reliefs, but there are 3 shifts. And a shift is there for 24 hours. When you go, you're there for 24 hours. And when you're not guarding, you're underneath the big ceremonial place there. And while you're there, you're busy cleaning up your uniform and polishing off shoe shine and stuff. And so anyway, I made it, but they have 3 reliefs, and on each relief, all the tomb guards are the same height. And they have changed the height a little bit now because ladies are now, or women are now available to be a tomb guard. And in fact, Heather Wagner, who's a good friend of mine, she lives in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Spring Lake, North Carolina. And she wasn't originally from there, but her husband was in the military, they married, they moved there. She was the first lady to ever walk the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And I invited her to come up here today, but she couldn't make it because they were on vacation. But anyway, they've changed the requirements a little bit up on the height there now. So that's pretty much the end of my story there. Has anybody got any questions I'd like to?
You
Yes.
told me a while ago when we were talking that, when they looked at the guns, I always thought that was just for fun.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the little inspection when they changed?
Yeah, when the inspection is, you're inspected one time before when you're downstairs and when you go upstairs, but if there's something wrong with your outfit or the gun, if it's got stain on it anywhere or one of your metals is out of place, you're sent back downstairs to get that metal or the gun fixed on it. So, and the guns are not loaded. A lot of people do not. The guns are not loaded. They got a bayonet on them, but they're not loaded because they don't want anything to happen up there. And there is civilian guards up there, policemen, to take care if anything happens. Now, if something, as we talked before, the Sentinels are always there, whether it's raining, snowing, thunderstorms, or whatever. Now, if there is lightning, there's a tomb guard box on each side of the tomb, and if it's lightning, he goes in that box, but he stands there at a parade rest or attention until the lightning stops and he comes back out of the bus. Yes, ma'am.
What tricks do they teach you when someone's trying to make you laugh? To keep a straight face, what, do they teach you anything?
You just have to maintain that. I've had that happen before, but it's when you're up there, it's really on your heart. It really is to pay respects to that unknown soldier. And so, I've had people, and a lot of people don't know, and you've seen on where the tomb guard corrects the person. And he turns to him and says, "It is requested that everyone maintain a mature and reverent attitude when in the immediate vicinity of the tomb." And that's all you had to do because everybody would turn around and look at that. And they'd be quiet. Now, a funny thing did happen to me one time that I almost laughed. I was guarding the tomb, and the tomb guard takes 21 steps. He's down at this end right here. And of course, he clicks his heel when he faces right out with his rep. And he stands there, and you have to count off in your mind. 21 seconds. When you do 21 seconds, you turn, click your heels, you stay there 21 seconds. You change arms. And the rifle is always away from the tomb. And you turn around and you walk to the other side, take 21 steps in honor of the 21 guns salute. Well, like I say, that tomb weighs 71 tons. It is 17 foot high. It's, I'm trying to think of all the dimensions on it. It weighs 79 tons. And on each side, it has the 3 reefs. And on the front, it has the here rested, on the front, really it's the back of the tomb, here rested honor and glory of American soldiers, none but the God. And on the front, on the back, facing Washington, D.C., is peace, valor, and victory. But anyway, I was, like I say, that tomb is tall, and I was on this side, and, right here. And when I'm facing this way, I can't see exactly what's happening on this side of the tomb right here, because like I say, it's wide. So I come marching along here, and I got right here in my peripheral vision. I noticed some people had stepped over. They used to have a chain there. Had stepped over and were taking pictures. They were sitting on the side of the tomb. And they were taking pictures. So I turned and came down. It was requested that everyone remain outside the cave. Well, they were from a foreign country. And they did not understand what I said. They just saw me come down and pull arms. They didn't know where I was going to shoot or not. And when I did, they jumped up, started running. I almost laughed at one. Any other? Yes.
Is it true that after you do your duty there, the promises that you made to be that sentinel has to remain with you for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Now, there's part of that stuff that is a little exaggerated on now you can have your badge removed from later on in life, you know, if you do something that's disrespectful to the tomb. You know, if you have and this is me when I was tall and skinny. And this right here is the official badge that the tomb guard wears. And my badge number is 134. And it's up to a little under 700 now. So I was quite honored, again, to be chose to be at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Any other questions?
For all his E's in the group, did you get it issued, or did you have to go and buy your own uniform?
You're issued. In fact, you have 3 or 4. And another thing, I'm glad you brought that up. In the summertime, you guard the tomb for 30 minutes because it's hot out there, and actually you wear the wool shirt because it doesn't wrinkle as much as the other. So you're out there and you're sweating, you know, and like I say, our shoes are pitch shine polished. And in the summertime, you're out there and the sun will melt the wax on your shoes. And you have to go back downstairs and re-wax your shoes and do your medals because the sweat will drop on you. Now, like I say, when you were talking about, I did have one time, in fact, I had a guy there from Elizabethtown to watch me walk the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and the guy that the sergeant who was inspecting the weapon, if y'all watch, they take the weapon and spin it. He did like that and hit in the head. Knocked the hat off the head. And I had to go to the Sentinel box and had to fix my hat back on my head. There's some strange things happen up there today.
During midnight, is the routine the same?
No. When the cemetery closes, the routine is that it becomes a regular guard post. But you're out there for 2 hours at night. And like I say, it's a regular guard post. You're not doing the ceremonial march that you're doing, you know, during the daytime. And we have a group called the Honor Guard Society, and we meet every other year. And we go and lay a rose at the Tomb of the Unknown Sentinels. Like I said, the only 2 I know, there's one other guy at Fort Bragg, and the lady I was thinking about, the spring lady, saw the 2 that we meet in North Carolina.
You have to be certain rank?
No, I was at E4 when I was.
E1, E2, E3?
You could be, well, she's at A3. before you come, before you accepted at the tomb. And by the way, if any, the tomb guards vote whether they want you on their release or not. And if you get one bad vote or black vote, you're not accepted. Any more questions? There's a Sentinel Creed, and I want to read this Sentinel Creed to you. And it says, the Sentinel Creed, my dedication is to this sacred duty is total and wholehearted. In the responsibility bestowed upon me, never will I falter. And with dignity, and perseverance, my standard shall remain perfection. Through the years of diligence and praise and discomfort of the elements, I will walk my tour in humble service to the best of my ability. It is he who commands the respect I protect, his bravery that made us so proud, surrounded by well-meaning crowds by day, alone in the thoughtful peace of night. This soldier will in honor and glory rest under my eternal vigilance. Again, thank y'all so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Ed. That is a history lesson right there, I'm telling you. You should write that. By the way, it is being videoed and will be on later this week at our town's site. You can go online, I don't know what day it'll be, but and see everything. And also, Ed does have a table over here with a lot of memorabilia, so if you want to come by and talk with him or get a photo op with him, be sure to do just that. And again, I do want to recognize our Veterans Committee, which I'm a part of, that's involved with what we do in Garner and Veterans. We've got a great group. If you come into Garner, you're going to see we are a Purple Heart community. That is quite an honor. We got that a couple years back. And so it says we do support our veterans. Also, do we have any members of any Gold Star families out here with us today? Yes. We want to recognize them. If you don't know what a Gold Star family means, it's when a member of their family paid the supreme sacrifice in the military, and we respect them, and thank you for being here today. And toward the end of the year, we do have our Gold Star tree up here. You see it memorial. We planted one this year. Tim got to us, let's get us a real tree instead of renting one. So we planted it, so hopefully this year and near the end of the year, that tree will be decorated in memory of Gold Star families. We'll put the information out, and you're more than welcome. Please attend that. Another sign of respect we do for our military. So thank you for being here. Yes, sir. He's hot. Look out.
I forgot to announce this, but there is a movie that was published about 6 years ago, and it's called The Unknowns. And you can get it on Google. You can Google The Unknowns and get it on your computer and stuff. But it's like an hour and a half movie. And again, it's called The Unknowns. And it shows the Sentinels guarding the tomb in the rain. And I'm featured in that movie, just like I'm talking here today. And then 2 years ago, they came out with a television documentary called the Honor Guard documentary. And it's a 4-part documentary. And the first part is caissons, the second one is brigade, the third one is the Army drill team, and the fourth one is called full honors. And about 25 minutes into that, I'm featured in that. And you can, there's a 4-part video, and you can get any one of them. You can go to any one of the 4 parts you want to. It's like $3 for it, but in the 4 parts, when I'm featured in it. And I talk about being, how I got into the Honor Guard and being on the funeral of the last guy killed in Vietnam. Thank you.
Amazon Prime. He's plugging Amazon. All right. We do have one of those stores down the road in case you didn't know about that. Ed, thank you again. It truly was a pleasure here. And before we get to our wreath laying, I want to again thank all the Boy Scouts that's here today and Cub Scouts. It's an honor to have you and your your leaders out here, because we see you come into council chambers from time to time, but thank you for what you do. You are our future, and who knows, one of y'all might be the next governor or president of the United States, and I can say I knew you. So, but thank y'all for being out here, and all the young people, up here I can see all the young people sitting. Parents, thank you for bringing them out here. It's a history lesson that you heard firsthand today, and so they need it because it's going to be your country one day, and we want you to take good care of it, right? Okay. All right. Now, and also remind everybody before we do this, we do have a memorial up here. Please go if you got time to look at it, walk through it, see what's it's a great place to go and meditate and rest, and it's a place of honor, and there's a lot of history. And now, members of VFW Post 10225 and the American Legion Post 232 will lay the wreath. The wreath will be moved to the memorial later today. And now, I want to call on Garner's Fire and Police Honor Guard for retiring of the colors, followed by taps played by Gus Lloyd, Boy Scout Troop 320. And if you're able to stand, please join me. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the town of Garner, thank you for being here. All your honored guests, please come by and check the table, and as well as our memorial up here. You're more than welcome to attend that, and we'll do it again next year. Thank you very much, and this does conclude our ceremony.